Blog Talk Radio.
Playing Sports City Chefs from Amazon Music.
Yeah. Woo. Let's go. Y'all need to sit back, listen, enjoy the vibe. Sip something, light it up, enjoy the ride. Cause the Sports City Chefs is on tonight. In the kitchen cooking up, they on the rise. Sports City, chefs, chefs. Sports City, chefs, chefs. Sports City, chefs, chefs. Sports City, chefs. Yes, Lord, we got a brand new president. Joe Biden, we riding, I pray you heaven sent. Word from the wise, my people stay ahead of it. I've been relevant, trying to survive the elements. It ain't no love in these streets, these dudes telling it. Case go from cold to hot, states evidence. Kaboom, Sports City Chefs is in the room. Cooking up hot topics to put up on your spoon. They well in tune, blown like a flower in June. Superman vs. MF Doom, the clouds loom. So tell a friend it's the Sports City Chefs again. Pay attention, tune in, we on the set again. Sports City, Chefs, Chefs. Sports City, Chefs, Chefs. Yeah. Kevin, Taj. Woo! Connecticut.
That's all I know, Sports City. You already know what time it is. We're giving y'all a little late night version. The Master Chefs are back in the building. Some of the notable faces that you know so well in this building. The call-in number is 929-477-2759. We got y'all guys locked and loaded for the next 2 hours with Power 103 Radio. Shout out to everybody out here in Connecticut and the radio station holding us down as well. I got my co-host with me. I got calling out of the state of Indiana. Y'all remember him. Our Keezy, Royce King is back in the building. Welcome to the cafe. How are you feeling this evening?
Thomas, I'm feeling real good. Keys back in the building, man. Let's do it.
Also calling out of the state of Colorado, I got Big Easy. Eric, welcome to the cafe. How are you feeling this evening?
I am feeling great. The Sports City Chefs are back on Power 103 Radio tonight. We got a great show for you guys out there. Glad you all tuned in, and let's get it going.
And we have one more person tuned in soon. He'll be getting here soon. And you guys know Naj will be rounding out the Master Chef situation. A lot of energy coming from this past week and weekend and things going up and down in the league. And I want to start off first with one of the faces of the league that's out until Friday, being Kevin Durant and his situation of him being caught up in the contact tracing situation and how crazy or heavy this situation will be throughout the NBA trying to corral this situation, COVID, across the board. Now, mind you, this is somebody that he's in sync with, that he was around. He wasn't able to start the game. He was able to play and then get pulled in that situation. So I want to know how you guys feel about KD in this situation. I don't really want to tie it to, like, anger, but I kind of do, like his anger toward how things were drawn out or played. And he's actually been more vocal, and he's been putting things out on social media at that also. But I want to see how you guys feel about this, especially with Brooklyn needing a guy like Kevin Durant at this point in time. Royce, I'll come to you first. The situation with KD having to sit out a good amount of games for this week right now for the Brooklyn Nets.
Well, Thomas, I absolutely understand KD's disposition. Look, the guy was supposed to be tested, didn't play, then they let him play, then they came and got him while he was playing, and all he could say was, free me. I understand the inconsistencies. While in the Sports City room, Thomas, there was some conversation that someone, his driver, actually had. And so there was this whole big to-do about whether or not it was going to impact KD or not. But in real time, look, KD has not contacted COVID. He doesn't in terms of having COVID. That's not why he's sitting. They're saying he come in contact, obviously, with someone else. It's just become a complete mess. When you take into consideration that we just witnessed the Super Bowl with thousands of fans at the stadium, and then the NBA comes out a few days prior to the Super Bowl and announces that they're going to move forward with an all-star game. Like, what are we really doing? Does it matter? I'm actually lost, Thomas. I'm baffled. I mean, you can hear it. I don't know where to go. I'm probably feeling what Kevin Durant is feeling. It makes literally no sense. Like 1 minute I can play, the next I can't. I don't have anything. Thomas, this is just a confusing situation. I don't know how to make sense of it. The Brooklyn Nets are going to be without Kevin Durant for every game that they have on the schedule this week. They said he was going to miss all 3 games this week. And I don't know that this is the right determination when it comes to Kevin Durant at this point, Thomas.
And they need him because and that's the bothersome situation. That's why I'm addressing this, because these guys have been in and out of this lineup, being the big three, not saying just the guys, but the big three have not been together for the majority of them being together. And they have to gel. This is the one thing that I'm concerned about, even though I feel like they're one of the stronger teams in the league when they're together because they have potent offense, but we're worried about them defensively. Shout out to Eric's post that he put on SportsCityChefs.com speaking toward the defensive prowess or capabilities that they have. The 3 games that are mentioned, well, actually, so he's missing Saturday too. That's what you're saying. Because the game that they play tomorrow against Detroit, it's in Detroit. Then they're home against Indiana. And then Saturday they play Golden State, but it's in Golden State. So I'm wondering if it does go as far as Saturday, because they were saying Friday, so it would be 2 games. But if it goes as far as Saturday, it would be the 3 games. So that's one to worry about. But I would want to see him out there up against Golden State, knowing that, you know, the aura of him just now leaving there, getting out to Brooklyn, playing up against Draymond. Like, you want to see that in a building that he probably won't, whatever fans that are in the new arena in San Francisco, he won't be received too well. But, you know, a lot of these leagues are looking for financial purposes to try to get as many people in the building and, you know, get viewership as well. KD doesn't play. You know, people aren't probably going to try and see that game or watch it as much, even though there's still that Harden and Kyrie Irving effect. Anything else you'd like to mention to what I said before I move this to Eric?
Yeah, Ty, because the confusion has been, one, the initial reports were that he would be available on Friday, right? Which means he could travel and play on Saturday. But then there were also a confusing report that simply said Kevin Durant will miss Brooklyn Nets' next 3 games. So it's like, okay, he can come back with the team and travel. However, he more than likely will not play on Saturday. That's how I interpreted that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so much confusion going on. It's almost like stay tuned day to day for the latest episode of drama that is Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant, and the NBA.
Eric, your thoughts on KD's situation? Do you agree or disagree with what me and Royce have stated? And your thoughts on this, you know, the whole COVID-19 situation, how we have to try to remain safe. And, you know, this is people in Kevin Durant's corner that got caught up in, you know, and no, there's nothing we're trying to do our best to prevent it. You know what I'm saying? But it's like when somebody you know has it, you don't know if they breathed it or walked by somebody, like what surface they touched is I hate to crack the joke. It's not a joke. Lord, forgive me if I'm cracking the wrong joke. But it's like the movie Fallen. You know what I'm saying? And with Denzel Washington and John Goodman, you don't know who touched who.
Yeah, you gonna flush it?
Who got the killer beast in them or whatever. So your thoughts on Kevin Durant at this point in time, Eric?
You know, Tymeless, I'm gonna take the same stance. You know, it's a little bit confusing, you know, since he didn't come back positive. So I mean, it does no good with him not being able to play. I mean, he doesn't have it, so I don't understand what they're trying to do here. And it's in a unique situation in the professional sports world. They got all these vaccines, you know, going out now, and all the players in all sports should be in line to get these vaccines, especially if the ones that want it. I know some people, you know, you can't force it on people, but they're in a unique situation where they're traveling around the country. You know what I mean? So, you know, just get them vaccinated, and we won't have to worry about this. But it comes into question, you know, I'm a supporter of having the All-Star game, but when they're doing stuff like this, it kind of doesn't, it makes no sense. And I'm the type of fan that I would rather have them, like we've discussed on the show, them playing playoff basketball than, you know, an All-Star game having a risk of having a major breakout. So, it's definitely going to hurt the Brooklyn Nets because we obviously know they need a high-powered offense, if they're going to win. They don't play defense, so they're going to need to be scoring those 130-point games. And Kevin Durant obviously is the anchor. He's the leading scorer on that team. So it's going to be a huge loss for the Brooklyn Nets. It's definitely a head-scratcher because it makes absolutely no sense why they're sitting him. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and this is something that I'm watching closely because this is a team that I'm 45, 50 minutes away from, being Brooklyn away from where I am. And, you're going to watch the stars in the faces of today, being Kevin Durant being the biggest star there, Kyrie Irving and him trying to mend this situation with the organization of him sitting out time, and James Harden, knowing a lot of this offense because D'Antoni just moved there, and Steve Nash's wealth of knowledge of the game came from what he learned from D'Antoni. So it was an easy fit in, but it's like with Kevin Durant missing time, while all these teams that play Brooklyn are going to gun at them, nobody's going to take a day off while Kevin Durant's out. Nobody's trying to wait till they close the paint off because they have their defensive issues. This can set Brooklyn back in the Eastern Conference. I mean, it's interesting to see how they are trying to get by at the end of the day, but you look at what they're fighting through in the Eastern Conference with at least the top 3 or 4 teams that they have to try to keep pace with, whether it's whether it's Boston, whether it's Philadelphia, I can't even really try to squeeze around them, and I'm trying to hurry up and get them off at the top of my head. But they have to worry about a couple of teams in the top of the Eastern Standard before they let this slip by. You want to try to keep as much of their home court advantage as possible, and this could actually end up hurting them in the long run, especially with Kevin Durant being the guy that we look to as the ammunition. But the better play happens with the guards in front of him shooting more. I don't know. I don't even know how that works. But for some odd reason, Kevin Durant is more efficient when a guard shoots more. On a day where Harden or Kyrie end up shooting more, it's actually happening the same way it was happening when he was in OKC, at least. I mean, it was different in Golden State because you had to worry about the floor being spread. You know what I'm saying? But right now, they are half a game in front of Boston. They are 2 games behind Milwaukee, and they are 3.5 back from Philly. Philly has the lead out east right now. So Indiana's right behind them. If they mess around and lose a couple of games, this could set them back, but it's not like they can't, put a string of wins together also. So it's getting pretty interesting, especially with this happening with Kevin Durant right now. And, the New York as a whole, New York City and the state of New York is looking for a winner. And right now the Nets have to try to save face to help them, even though the Knicks are 8th in the East right now. Just saying. And I don't want to start that up because it got crazy yesterday. We do have a caller in queue calling out of the New York region. We have Ron in the building. Ron, welcome to the cafe. How are you feeling this evening?
I can hear the little bell ringing in as the 5 steps through the door. All this commotion about Durant missed a few games. It's just 3 games. Relax. This is why you brought in Harden, and it'll keep Kyrie on his toes. You never know when he's going to pull a David Ruffin and decide to go disappear for a few games. They got enough firepower. This is on Nash, D'Antoni, and Stoudemire getting them to play defense. They'll be fine. Every team is going to go through this at a certain point. Remember last year when the pandemic got started, they cleared the arena. So everyone's going to be on notice. But this will put them even on more notice not to have the All-Star game and actually listen to the players. But Brooklyn, their whole job, yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Say what you're going to say. Continue.
Nah, I think Brooklyn's main goal is, I think Durant, I know he's playing out of fish and he hasn't missed too many games, but he is coming off a serious injury, so you don't want him full throttle. This will keep him at pace. 3 games is not a big deal.
Okay, and speaking of which, that is another topic to think about is the All-Star game and all of the feedback people are getting about the All-Star game. You got people speaking out like De'Aaron Fox. LeBron has also spoken out. And especially with a guy like Kevin Durant's situation right now, I mean, they're only a month away from the All-Star game because I think it's going to be the weekend of March 7th, if I'm not mistaken. So is it like players going to want to stay away from Kevin Durant or, especially Atlanta? I've been down there, one of the best social areas ever, and knowing that Atlanta's trying to open up, like, are they going to be cautious with it being All-Star weekend? I want to see how this works out. I'll come right back to you, Ryan. Your thoughts on the All-Star situation, especially with KD KD situation as of right now?
I don't think this is a KD situation. I think this is just an NBA situation. That they're constantly reviewing tests of every player sample. You never know what. I mean, come on, Kansas City was about to blame the barber. Okay, so now going to Atlanta. I mean, Lou Williams don't have nothing to worry about. He's not making the All-Star team. I mean, it's on players' discretion and discipline. That's what the bubble pushed them through. Now, Durant and Kyrie didn't go to the bubble, but the teams who went through the bubble and went through that experience have a level of restraint. But like I said, if there's a Magic City in the wing, another versus battle for Jeezy and Gucci Mane during the All-Star game, I don't know. Should be quite entertaining, but they should not have the All-Star game.
Definitely. Well, that's one opinion. It's very interesting across the board. Some people think it should be played. Some people don't. Eric, your thoughts on it? How do you feel about this All-Star game? They're getting close to all of the dynamics of it being set up to go, especially with a month's time. How do you feel about it? Plus, this is a shortened month, mind you, so 20 more days, and then you have 7. So 27 days away until the All-Star weekend. Eric, are you there?
Ty, yeah, I'm supporting it, but I'm kind of on the fence now because of what's going on. I don't want to risk a full-blown outbreak in the NBA and then they suspend the season and stuff like that. So it's interesting. This Kevin Durant thing, I don't know where the NBA's head's at, or if they really do have a sound protocol that they're following. So, obviously it's best for business, good for the league, good for the fans to put on the All-Star game. In my opinion, it's the best spectacle in all of professional sports, the NBA All-Star weekend. But, you got to look at safety and the overall, season. Is it going to put the season in jeopardy? So a lot of the players have came out and spoken about it, and they don't want to play in it. So I think in this situation, they need to follow what the players think. These are the assets. These are the people going out playing. So these are the people that are on the front lines at risk. So I think if you're Adam Silver, you listen to your players in this situation.
Royce, do you agree with the panel thus far? How do you approach this situation, especially with players that may have come down with the COVID or contact tracing and seeing if they may have crossed paths with somebody? I mean, and just like Eric said, picture a player, and I don't know if it's going to be that many people, but picture a player from each respective team getting down to Atlanta and just messing around getting by somebody, and then, each team has a player that has to sit out or comes around this player. All of these precautions that they need to take are being overlooked or not thought out. Your thoughts on this one, Royce?
I mean, I absolutely get it, Thomas, but don't ask me to picture it. Ask Adam Silver to picture it, right? Ask the brain trust that is the NBA to picture. Is it worth it to have the NBA All-Star game and miss and delay the rest of the second half of the season and possibly not have the finals, the playoffs? Is it going to break out that bad, or do they know something that we don't know, right, in terms of what's really happening in our world via sport versus reality, the politics of it all with the COVID? It varies from state to state, city to city, right, who are in some places, they have the vaccine, they're getting vaccinated, there's a line for vaccination, there's a waiting list for vaccination. There are people, I think I read something from Fox 5 in Las Vegas. They're asking people to double up in their wearing of a mask. They're asking people to wear 2 masks, not just one. What's going on? Then I watched the Super Bowl with thousands of fans, again, in the stadium, people who are putting themselves allegedly at risk, right, for the sake of entertainment, 200-plus people performing at halftime. We have the All-Star game coming up. I'm sure that's going to be a show for the games and whatever festivities that they have scheduled. But all that being said, it behooves all of us to begin to ask the question, where do we stand as a country from state to state, not just what's happening in the NBA? Because clearly the brain trust, again, that is the NBA and the Players Association are beginning to shift to things getting back to normal. So should we start looking at adjusting our speech and our conversation when we're doing shows, when we're looking at the league, when they're making decisions? Or is this just a state of confusion they want to have us all in, where we don't know who to trust, whose word to rely on, who's a reliable source, and things of that nature? There's a lot going on here that probably needs to be unpacked. This might not be the platform or the time, but again, if they're going to have a game, then okay, cool. I'll be watching for the fallout if there is any. I don't want it to be a fallout, but if there is any, I'll be watching from a distance. I will enjoy the game as they play it, but I won't be attending any games anytime soon. That's just how I'm approaching it, Tymeless.
Right, and then I want to hear, of course I'm here with us and discussing it here, but it's like I really want to hear Adam Silver's stance and point of view, and really want to see, the confusedness, if I'm saying that correctly, or watching him try to, shuffle for an answer to give people on why it should be played or the importance of your All-Star Weekend, especially in a high social environment of Atlanta, Georgia. When you go to Atlanta, Georgia, especially on Peachtree and things like that, there's a lot of people out there. But I haven't been down there since this COVID situation, so I don't know what it'll look like. If it's going to look like a ghost town, or I know that they said that they are opening up. So just imagine them. You got a bunch of, guys, spanning from. I want to be fair with the number. Let's just say 22 to 33 with millions of dollars and want to do something. You think they're really just going to go upstairs and sit in a hotel room and wait till the game comes back on, or sit up there and do the skills competition and wait to come? They're going to be social. They're going to go outside. They might as well walk around with garbage bags and bubbles on them. That's the only thing I could think of in an environment like that. But this is something that I want to see more or hear more from the powers that be that are trying to make this possible. That is the way that I'm looking at this. Okay, so I'm going to move from this situation because it's interesting to make that transition from KD and hearing Ron talk about the All-Star situation. The next topic that I do have is an interesting one because, and it's interesting that I got Royce here because Royce will always talk about this, and I'm like, wait, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Just wait, just hold on. And I'm talking about blowing up teams, and not all of them in a handful. I'm going to get at one. I have 3 of them written here, right? I have 3 teams written here, but one I wanted to peg at, because they are in the midst of making a playoff run. They are in the top 8 of their respective conference, right? And that is the Portland Trailblazers, right? And when I look at the Portland Trailblazers, this is a team that has potential top to bottom, right? You have guys that can score when they need to, but you have 2 players that are in question and playing together, and I feel like they can play together. But some people are saying they need to move them or blow this up. And Dame Dollar, a.k.a. what time is it? Or C.J. McCollum, and that's one of my favorite 2 guards in the league. I'm not going to lie. I'm a big C.J. fan, and I don't want him to leave Dame because he's going to have to try and fit in, and I feel like it can almost be a setback. But C.J. has enough game to make things happen, and it's interesting. And also, looking at this scenario, if they're going to blow it up, and they don't do well this year, then Stotts will be out. I don't think Stotts hangs on to that job, especially in the Western Conference, unless Portland is really looking to sit on him and wait for him to make this happen. So I want to see how you guys at least feel about the Blazers from here and moving on. And this is the crazy part about the Blazers. Their last 10 games, they're 5-5, but they're losing games that these are the questionable situations. They have, the game was canceled up against the Hornets. They lost their last game up against the Knicks. They won 2 they won 1 in Philly. They won 1 in Washington. But then they lost to the Bucks. They beat the Bulls. They lost 2 back-to-back to the Rockets in Houston, and they lost at home up against the Thunder. So I want to send this one around and see how you guys feel about it. Eric, I'll start with you first. Your thoughts on the Blazers, and is it a situation that you feel like they should be blown up within this season or a two-year ratio? How do you feel about the Blazers if they aren't successful?
Absolutely not does this team need to be blown up. I think you look at Stotts, you know what I mean? I don't think he's the man. They got a really good team, TP. They got Gary Trent Jr., who's an emerging star, Anthony Simmons, and, of course, Damian Lillard and McCullough. I just think, and even Enes Kanter. So they got pieces to where they can compete. If they can go out in the free agency and maybe get one more piece, that role player to help them out. But Portland was one of my top picks in the West to bang with the Lakers this year, you know what I mean? So I definitely don't think you blow this team up. The talent is there. I mean, they have a great roster on paper. So I think you want to look at the coaching staff because they got, like I said, the talent's there, and you need a coach to put it together to have the chemistry and for everybody to play on all cylinders. So I think we'll see how this year plays out, and then Portland needs to go out and reevaluate their coaching staff instead of wanting to blow up the team because they got too young. I mean, they've been doing good in the draft. So, I mean, they have the pieces. You don't need to go in rebuild mode. You've already been building this team. So, and you definitely do not want to get rid of two stars in C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard. So it would make no sense for them to do that. So the talent's there. They just need a coach to put it all together and get results on the court.
Just to give people a scoring update, it's a game coming down to the wire. Quarter, the Wizards are up by 1 on Chicago, 102-101 with 29 seconds in the fourth. So this is something I'll be watching. Royce, your thoughts on what I mentioned? I know we talk about this a ton, but it's the cafe we got to cook up. Your thoughts on Portland? How do you feel about this? Do these guys stay together? How big of a window? And when do they start looking at Terry Stotts?
Well, if I'm the general manager or the president, or actually if I'm the owner of the team, is where I think this actually starts, Tymeless. We've been watching this assembly of the Portland Trail Blazers for enough seasons now that it is obvious this is a perennial pretending contender. This team is not contending for a championship as currently constructed or the way it was constructed any of the previous seasons. They've not shown that they will defend at a high level. I think they're currently ranked somewhere near the bottom of the NBA right now, down there with when people talk about Brooklyn can't defend, well, Portland's right down there with them. And then people throw around names that they associate individual players with defense. Well, they had Hassan Whiteside. He's gone. Last year they had Trevor Ariza. He asked to get out of Dodge ASAP. They have Derrick Jones Jr. airplane mode. He's not a real defender, is he? He's a highlight reel, in my opinion, but somebody associated with defense. They have Robert Covington Jr. Well, he's just one guy. You have to defend as a team. Most importantly, you have to have a defensive-minded coach or someone on the coaching staff that's concerned with it. And then when you're drafting, you have to draft players who can play offense and defense. It's basketball. It's not football. All this, we're looking for a two-way player. What? That's new brand, new booty basketball, as they say, where people, you're like, did you just get out the crib last night? Like, basketball transitions within the blink of an eye. When you get bang your man, it's a part of the fundamentals. Run, shoot, dribble, defend, okay? If you can't do that, then you can't really be a basketball player. And I would make a job for somebody at the highest level of basketball entertainment, but a guy who can only defend but can't score, a guy who can only score but can't defend. But I digress. I'll get off my rant. The bottom line is, yes, you're absolutely right. Can C.J. McCollum and Dame Lillard play together? Certainly. They've been playing together. Can they win a championship together? Absolutely not, my brother. It's not going to happen. You'll never see it happen in the next 2 to 3 seasons, barring a complete change in philosophy that begins at the top of the organization and flows down to what we probably need to, and coaching staff that is going to make that team a defensive team. Just go through all the names that you know as notable stars, and all you think is offense. Every last one of them. Dame, CJ, Yusuf Nurkic, Enes Kanter that they went back to. Like, come on. They don't have defense in their DNA and the makeup of that roster construction, so you're not going to get a team who could actually go deep into the playoffs on the strength of its defense. Can Dame and CJ perform some heroics? Well, they have, some of us would say, in previous seasons. But how far does that get them? We've seen how far that they could go. I think that team is done and over with. It's time to move on, but you have to be willing to move on and can reconstruct on the fly with the right personnel and with the right mindset. I'm not here to call for anybody's job. I'm just here to point out that you don't win championships without being in the top 5, the top 10 in defense. And normally you got to be a top 5 defensive team and then be able to obviously get it done on the offensive side of the ball. You have to be able to rebound. You have to be able to make free throws when they matter the most if you actually want to get to the finals and actually hoist the Larry O'Brien Trophy. So, no, the Blazers are not the squad that's currently constructed.
So they need to be blown up.
I won't say blow up, but there needs to be a build up.
Okay.
Build it
Ron,
up.
how about you? How do you feel, Ron?
They definitely need a blow up in their coaching staff, just like you just touched on. You know what I mean? It comes from the top, and they need to get some people in there that have that defensive mentality and philosophy and that care. I'd like to see this team have the right coaching staff around them and then pass judgment on them, because some of these guys can play defense. You know what I mean? Lillard can play defense when he wants to. Gary Trent Jr. can play some defense. So I think they're poorly coached, and that's the problem, what we're seeing here with Portland.
Royce, before I go to Ron, do you think they get rid of now, or do you think that he gets time there?
Well, you know, Stotts is a good coach. All right, let's just be clear about it. Stotts is good at what he does, and so again, do you put somebody on the coaching staff that balances the other side? There's no excuse for, you know, if you're going to be a superstar, if you want to be an MVP candidate in Dame Lillard, you have to play on both sides. We're not going to blame this. Look, at the highest level, it's not like at high school where the head coach, because you feel like he's older, he's been doing it longer, that he can tell his player, you got to do this, you got to do that, and then the player has to, you know, comply. It's not high school. Every player makes more money than his head coach. So if he don't want to play no D, he's not going to play no D. Dame Lillard is getting cooked and not playing D, and his offense is his defense. That's just, you know, NBA level mentality. That's the culture, and that's what you see. And it's not good enough. It doesn't always work for Dame. You know, he has his days where, hey, he can go toe-to-toe with certain players, and he's talking that talk. And we be like, oh, yeah, Dame, you know, he shot Russell's lights out. He shot PG's lights out, and he waved bye-bye. Ooh, did you see that? But then against other players like Steph Curry, he might not cook like that. Mm-hmm. And Steph is, you know, going for 8, 9, 10 threes in a game against Dame Lillard. Bottom line, it's the team and the players and the organization. Again, we're saying it different ways, but I'm not making any excuses for the players. But first and foremost, every player in the NBA probably been playing the game since the age of 7. If you're a superstar, if you're really elite, only a rare few guys just started playing 4 or 5 years ago, or at age 14 or 15, and still made it to the league. But even then, you know that you have to play offense and defense in order to be a really good basketball player. If you want to make $30-some million a season, go up to $40+ million a season, you have to be a baller. And you can't definitely not going to sit on air and make excuses for any of these guys. Build it up, get your mind right, play your game. I know they're usually long seasons, but it's 72 games this season. Get some help. Get your mental rest. Handle all of your business. That on the court, and then at the National Basketball Players Association, when they decide, hey, all of a sudden, after saying that there wasn't going to be an all-star game, don't let them take your rest away and have a game. Say no. That's what the union is for. No, we're not going to have an all-star game because we got some things we got to figure out here in Portland because we don't really have a contending team. We're just pretending, and I'm the leader here, a.k.a. I'm Dame Lillard, and I'm tired of going through this. I really want to have give our team a real chance at winning and then go into the office. This is what star players need to do, like get into the front office with the GM and say, hey, I appreciate what y'all guys have done for me personally, but I don't like the way things are looking for the team. Let's get the right personnel in here. Who can we grab with a defensive DNA that will be infectious throughout this roster? Those are the types of conversations that need to be going on in an organization if they really want to be seen as a contending or a championship organization. Everybody else, a lot of them, man, they're just out there doing what they do. It's an entertainment league. They're going to say the right stuff at the beginning of every year. Brother, they just want to get those checks and get your money at the door or get that revenue through league pass and merchandise. So that's my thoughts, Tymeless.
Okay, Ron, your thoughts on Portland? We do have somebody in Q2 also. How do you feel about Portland moving forward? Do you think this is something that they wait for this team's success and try to capitalize on the Western Conference? I mean, and I'm also looking at somebody that none of us mentioned. Carmelo Anthony sitting there trying to get a championship, and I don't think that'll happen.
Look, here we go again. Now coaches don't know how to coach. Let's revisit some of the mishaps that Portland did miss on. They didn't give Batum $130 million. LaMarcus Aldridge left. The problem with the CJ and Davis, they both undersized, and they've always been hurt to a certain degree. And it's hard in the NBA to get the third guy. Not everyone's Golden State that has Draymond Green. Not everyone can bring on a Durant. Not everyone has LeBron and KD and fill in the pieces. And plus, nobody wants to go to Portland. Melo only went out of desperation. He didn't go when he was Melo into the win. They traded for Covington. They gave up a first-round pick. So, they playing small ball. People forget, they went to the conference finals 2 years ago. And them games with Golden State, they was in it until the end during that run with Curry and all them guys. So the problem with Portland is when do you say bye to CJ and make sure you get the right pieces back because you're building around Dame. Dame is not going anywhere. So the problem is it's hard to get a two-way player as a number two guy. It is very hard. And that's the dilemma most people in the league have. Getting that second guy that fits, that covers everything, or even a third guy. Look at Milwaukee. We still going to think Middleton's going to come through in the postseason? I always thought Milwaukee and Portland should have made a trade. They have to at least Middleton play defense. So the thing is, you got 200-sized guards playing small ball, and their bigs is always hurt. That's the issue in Portland. So if they happen to flame out, if Damon goes down and CJ goes down, then this offseason can make a move. But Damon's not going anywhere. And it's not the coaching. The guys can go up. I don't go after coaches when guys go down and there's expectations. That's the problem in the league. If guys, you get defense by signing hungry guys on 10-day two-way contracts on rookie deals. That's how you get defense out of guys. Once guys start making $20 million, you can't get them to play defense.
That would be an interesting move if they could make it happen. I don't know if they would. If you could bring a guy like CJ to Milwaukee and have Middleton go to Portland, that would be interesting. Calling in at this moment in time, we have Naj. Naj, welcome to the cafe. How are you feeling this evening?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Who's in the aquarium or who's washing dishes? What's going on, fellas?
I got it. I'm gonna try and mute it right now. Okay. Your thoughts on the conversation at hand right now? I'm good. How are you, bro?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Good to hear y'all boys laying it down as usual. Like we talked about this last year when we said, Dame is going to have to be the unpopular guy in the building and go into that GM's office and say, I'm sorry, CJ has to go. And that's not a knock on CJ. CJ's a great player, but he's not great
Right.
enough. So you're going to have to flip him for assets and try to build this thing. And as my man just said, yeah, it's going to be hard to get a solid number 2 for CJ. I think the Milwaukee move would be a lateral move. Like if you did Middleton for CJ, I think both teams end up in the same place. I don't think that does anything for anybody. I think what you would have to do is look for multiple pieces for CJ and just try to create a really balanced roster. So you're probably not going to get the second star, but you just look for guys who fulfill a certain need. Screeners, rollers, stretchers. Like you would have to look at it from that standpoint because you're not going to get, you're not going to get a better 2 than CJ for flipping CJ unless you're going to add multiple picks to it, which you should be open to do because, you only got a small window with Dame's prime, and you got to try to go for it while you had the opportunity because why not? He's going to be an iconic person within your franchise, so you might as well go for it as hard as you can while he's still, in the prime of his career. But, everything you guys said was interesting about that, man. Portland is a really strange team. They're loaded at the 5, but those guys keep getting hurt. And how do you figure it out with a guy like Nurk, who you don't want to move because he's really, really talented, but also, it's hard to keep that dude upright. And then when you got somebody like Cantor, Cantor's nice for some spare. Like if you're playing Cantor 20 minutes a game, there's nothing wrong with Enes Cantor. But when you depend on Enes Cantor, you're in trouble, man. So, Portland got some work to do, man.
A lot of work under construction. I think you have to put, Nurk in a package as well. It's not just CJ.
Wow.
It's not just CJ. The best ability is availability. He's never available when it's winning time, much like Kevin Love. We all knew that Kevin Love was a very good player in Minnesota. We knew that he was a much better player next to LeBron James when he was actually able, as Naj said, to be upright and next to LeBron James. When he's not available, how was he helping the Cleveland Cavaliers? He didn't. He's not helping the Cleveland Cavaliers now. People say the name and they think with nostalgia he should be an asset. He should be somebody who could get something in return back in Cleveland. That's not happened for years now. Don't let the sun go down on Yusuf Nurkic's value. It's time to move on. That's what. So if you ask the right question, do you blow it up? I'm not using the language of blow up. I'm using the language that says build it up. But I'm intending to still do what you were thinking. Pieces around the NBA right now would be C.J. McCollum and Yusuf Nurk. Someone is going to buy Nurk because they're hopeful that if he changes environment or locale, he'll see a health improvement. We talked about this. Look at, say, for example, Russell and the injuries he was dealing with while playing in a warmer climate in Oklahoma City and Houston, and now look at his struggles and the difficulties to get him on the court and keep him on the court producing at a high level in Washington. The cold air from one coast to the next or one region to the next has a major impact on these players after they've been playing for so many seasons and their bones and their body starts talking to them, man. And so it's just, if I'm the GM, I'm looking to move C.J. McCollum as well as Yusuf Nurk to get the right players because you're going to have to send out not just one guy for one defensive player per se. You're going to have to send out multiple offensive talents to get multiple defensive talents back because you have a guy like Gary Trent Jr. Not that I think he's going to help you win a championship or move the needle, but he's offensive-minded. You have Anthony Simons, the bench, who's offensive-minded. You have Rodney Hood, who's starting only due to CJ's injury, who's offensive-minded. You have Carmelo Anthony off the bench and sometimes starting, who's offensive-minded. Like, if I go down everybody's name in the list, you got all guys who are offensive-minded. You have to ship some out for some defensive-minded and find a balance and then, roll it up into a ball and throw it against the wall and see if it sticks.
Okay, I'm going to get away from him. What were you saying, Naz? I'm sorry.
No, I just said yes, sir. To just kind of concur with what he was saying. The only thing I want to add is, like, defense is not an effort problem in the NBA. The issue with defense now is you can't put hands on people, so it's a leg game. You tear up your ligaments, your knees, and everything else because you're just constantly running, constantly moving, trying to cut off people, trying to get angles. And there's no lazy defenders in the NBA. Like, the people who are, they're infamous. We kind of know about them. The tape don't lie, and those are the people who get their minutes cut. But everybody plays defense in the NBA. This ain't old school, man. You can't chuck people as they're running through trying to get a pick. You can't stop guys from cutting by using your hands. You can't hand check and redirect people. Like, none of that stuff is in play, so guys have to move their feet. This is why load management and all that is in play now, too, because of the stress and wear and tear on your legs. Like, what Steph is doing right now, like, I don't even think people understand for a guy that size to carry the offensive load and do all of the running he has to do defensively and to get open. Like, the workload that Steph is going through right now, like, we'll see how it affects the rest of his career, but it's going to be an effect because this is a totally different game than what we were used to seeing back in the day. And people think the scores are high because people aren't defending. It's like, no, these are the new rules. Everybody's playing within the rules. You can't touch anybody. You can't redirect. So it's a leg game, man. And that's why you're going to see less and less guys play until older ages. It is rough on your body, man.
Nas, I want to thank you for bringing out. No. I just wanted to say thank you for mentioning Steph Curry's name and using him in that kind of example, which allows me to make this statement here. That's exactly why Steph Curry is better than Damian Lillard. Right?
Yeah, wouldn't argue with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's doing all of that while still getting buckets, and it's his effort, it's his commitment, it's his drive and will to win. He doesn't just want to put up stats and then put out a rap album. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's locked in to being legendary for being an NBA basketball player, an NBA champion, impacting the game, changing the game in his own little way. Dame Lillard can score. He can shoot from anywhere in the building. We know that. Doesn't bring that same effort all the time.
Every night, yeah.
He's got to look at himself in the mirror. That's all I'm saying. And you can't compare yourself to a guy like Steph Curry and think that you're as good as him when you don't do the same types of things that he does in terms of the mental preparation and then the commitment to physically be prepared and be in the best shape of your life every season of your life in the NBA. That's what it takes. Because you have to be in the greatest shape your body can physically be in as often and as long as it can remain in that place. I know these guys get hurt. I know these guys get injured. I know they're playing through injury. But it's one thing to play through injury, and then it's altogether something else to be playing through injury and know that you're still in pretty good condition because your team's success depends on you to get it done. That's Steph Curry, not Dame Lillard.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on one thing about that defense. You know, it's a good point that the league has changed, but you could see in a lot of these games, you still got to stick to your man. You got to play man defense if that's what it calls for. If you're in zone defense, you still got to play that defense. And you see a lot of these stars that are just strictly offense, and they're not guarding their man. They go down the court and they're wide open for three. Like there's no excuses for that. You got to still stick to your man. I understand you can't, use your hands as much, but you still got to stick to your man like glue. You know what I mean? You can't just, be running up and down the court and not paying attention to your man. You got to guard him. So, and we're seeing a lot of that not happening in the NBA. People are just, you watch these games and there's people wide open in the threes, and that should never happen. You should always, if you're playing man defense, stay on your man. If you're in zone, be in the zone. So it is a problem. It's not strictly that they can't do it. There is a lot of teams that aren't playing defense. They're just running up and down the court scoring, and the next team is doing the same. Look at what the Nets. Every team they play turns into a high-scoring team. Like you see the Cavs, they're putting up 98 points in these other games, but when they're playing the Nets, they're putting up 130 points. So the defense is still a problem in this league with a bunch of teams.
Yeah, but see, then we got to talk about points per possession, how fast they want to get a shot up. Then you're actually talking about a team's offense. So the Washington Wizards, the Chicago Bulls, and the Brooklyn Nets, they all play at a high pace. They want to get up more shots than you because their basic motto is per possession. If you measure it by efficiency, if they put up more shots, they're going to score more than you and beat you. That's their philosophy. That's what Scotty Brooks wants to do. That's what Steve Nash wants to do. And that's what Chicago wants to do. So it's not a thing of not playing defense. It's a thing of they want the pace to be that fast. And as far as people getting open and shooting shots, that's called reality. In theory, nobody should ever get an open shot. You should always be a man there at least to be able to get a closeout on an open shooter. But reality happens, meaning the pace of the game quickens, a missed three-point shot comes off, somebody gets the rebound, outlet, they go. You as a team defensively, you have your key. Hey, I get to the box. You get to the edge. This guy covers corner shooters, corner threes when they get in their secondary fast break. But like I said, that's just in theory. In practice, what's going to happen is defensive breakdown. Oh, man, I thought you had him. Oh, I thought you were the one back. Oh, I didn't do that. That's why communication comes into play, and that's why you see the more veteran teams make less of those type of mistakes. The Lakers barely ever make ridiculous mistakes like that, which is why it's so hard to score on them when they have their full lineup in because they're the best team defensively. They communicate very well. Everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. When you go to a Minnesota Timberwolves where it's young guys, these guys just got together, you didn't have a long training camp, you're trying to instill the things that you want as far as defensive fundamentals and philosophy. But guess what? It takes time to build that. So, no, it's not a thing of people are just bad defensively. Some of that stuff is just reality, man. Like, yeah, you're going to give up open shots sometimes. And, yeah, the offense is going to, I guess you could say, orchestrate and commit in a way better than what the defense is ready for. And that's just going to happen sometimes, man. That's not a thing of people aren't playing defense. Sometimes better offense beats good defense. And then when you talk about some of these young teams, like I said, Minnesota especially, because they're the prime example, my God. Their inability to communicate and get everybody where they need to be, like, it's a struggle, man. It's a struggle. But they're trying.
To mention this, I'm looking at it now. Stott got there in 2012, so this would be his 9th season. I'm giving him 2 years tops before management started to build some steam because I don't know how long they sit on him for. Like, he's been there. They've had good seasons. I could think of all of the runs that they've had from Dame Lillard's buzzer beater shot that night knocked Houston out to the buzzer beater to knock my Thunder out. Like, they did it. They've gone as far as the Western Conference Finals making those runs, but haven't got over the cliff. Like, I give it 2 seasons tops. Like, I'll give him that 10th and 11th season.
But Tymeless, were they ever good enough to get over the cliff? And we talked about this last year. Me, you, and Royce hit on this heavy. Playoff matchups a lot of times distort expectations. So if you get a team that's just ready-made for you to be able to beat, and then you advance in the playoffs further than you probably actually are as far as a team, it makes it seem as if you're one of the elite when if you got a matchup that wasn't as favorable, it would be more obvious all of the deficiencies that exist on that team. So that's another problem with the playoffs. Just it's matchup basketball. And sometimes you get a favorable one, and like New Orleans against Portland that year, where New Orleans was able to destroy Portland, and people thought, oh, well, Portland is much worse than what we thought. Then they get a favorable matchup against OKC the next year, and then everybody's like, oh, well, Portland should be able to check. No, they're the same level of team. They just got a favorable matchup one year and a less favorable in another year.
All right, fair
Lakers,
enough. I'm
Brooklyn,
gonna move.
teams like that, it don't matter. They're a 10, and you're going to have to play at a 10 to beat them. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay, I'm gonna move from that topic. The caller number is 929-477-2759. Power 103 Radio with the Sports City Chefs. Throwing it around in the Crossover Cafe. Another team that I was going to mention in line with that is where Naj is right now in Atlanta with the Hawks. Now, I don't know if it's a blow-up situation, but I think pieces have to be moved. I mean, they have pieces that can, make a difference in this team that could be mainstays. And one discussion that I had earlier today, they said,
Whoa.
So wait, is that wrong?
Yeah, you can't be serious, are you? You're playing, right?
What?
This is a joke.
What do you see? What do you see?
I see a young team. I see an organization with the right mindset. I see somebody attempting to build something from the ground up. Like blow up.
I didn't
build
say
up.
blow up.
Absolutely. They're building it up. That's what you were going to say, right? You're going to say that the Atlanta Hawks are building up their roster, and so they're sitting number 7 in the East, and they have a really good shot at making the playoffs, but they're battling, an injury bug heading into this All-Star break. That's what you was going to say, right? Like they drafted Trae Young, and they drafted DeAndre Hunter, right?
Hold on.
Huh?
Hold on.
No?
You think that there's a tomorrow with Danilo Gallinari or guys that aren't fitting?
Wait. Why
Hold on.
Danilo Gallinari? Why are we starting with Gallinari?
Hold on. Because he's working his way back in there. He's going to be moved. I don't think he's a mainstay there. But John Collins, they're talking about the camaraderie that they're having in that I don't want to say in the huddle, but more or less when they're out there on the floor. Like, are they going to figure it out with what they go out there on the floor with?
They need Tymeless. Every team has to build according to its DNA, right? So this team, the Atlanta Hawks, are deep on the wing. And so you bring in a veteran wing who's been on all sides of basketball in terms of his professional career in Danilo Gallinari, right? He played for the Knicks, played for the Clippers, played for OKC. Now he's in Atlanta. I might have missed some stops, but he knows what the ups and downs are. He knows how to be a professional scorer, right? He knows how to play through and overcome injuries, go through rehabilitation, to fight for his career, to have what he just got from you. Ultimate respect that, like let's look past the young guys and let's go straight to the old head. Like Danilo's the old head. He's a veteran presence in the locker room at this point in his career. He's there to mentor Herter, Collins, Hunter, Reddish, like anybody who's going to do anything on that wing that's going to play some small forward, stretch forward. You're going to have conversations with Danilo Gallinari about how to be successful because that's what this young Atlanta Hawks team needs. That's why they went out and got a point guard once they finally I don't even know if they actually drafted a young point guard. There's still no young point guard to back up Trae Young, right? Because he's a young man, so you don't want to bring in a young, hungry point guard to be his backup. You bring in a veteran with experience, championship pedigree, if that's your organizational direction, and that's clear. The Atlanta Hawks want to get back to being a team that does something they have actually not done since I've been alive. I've never seen the Atlanta Hawks in the NBA Finals. I've seen them compete, but I've never seen them in the NBA Finals. But the people, the brain trust of this Atlanta Hawks team, brother, you go out and get the talents, like I said, that I've named off thus far, and you can bring up their depth chart. You can clearly see they're young, they're talented, they have some cohesion. You have a very good head coach who's committed to the offensive and defensive side of basketball. Like, he's a basketball player, thereby he's a basketball coach, right? He's coaching the game the right way, and guys are young, talking 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 21, 22. There's so much for them to learn and they got to get up to speed. And that team at one point was really void of competent veteran leadership that could help them. I mean, I know somebody gonna say, "Well, they had Vince Carter." Yeah, they got old Vince, but he was there for the most part by himself. He didn't really have help. Dedman, like, come on, he's not that guy. That wasn't his role. That wasn't his job. He was enjoying the minutes, and he was enjoying getting paid and getting some conversation, some respect being put on his name. But if you bring in Rondo, you bring in Gallinari, then you even go out and get you a young guy he's not very young, he's not very old. I want to say Bogdanovich is around 28, 29, again, but he played the role where he had to balance being in an organization that was a losing organization, and then trying to push the so-called starting two guard and then split minutes with Buddy Hield. You bring all that into Atlanta, man, and you're trying to get some mesh. You're trying to use your experience as a veteran in the league and, again, just mentor the guys who are expected to do the heavy lifting. And then the general manager in Atlanta still also has to decide, are these pieces working? Does it fit? I believe that the majority of the pieces do fit. I hate to say this because I love the talent. As of right now, if there's one piece that doesn't seem to fit prior to DeAndre Hunter's injury, I would say it was Cam Reddish, because I think Cam Reddish will be at his best when he's given the ultimate green light to play with the ball in his hand. But if he's on that Atlanta Hawk team and he doesn't get to play with the ball in his hand and he doesn't receive that ultimate green light, then that one piece, to me, is the piece that stands out that needs to move on so that he could be the best player that he could be, because he's not fitting the strengths that are Trae Young and Kevin Huerter and DeAndre Hunter. But let me back up a little bit and share the meal because I'm being greedy. I'm doing a lot of eating. You guys are Thomas.
Right. I'm trying, but I want to hear you know, and this is something that me and Naj were talking about last night about the Cam Reddish situation, how people are impatient or being patient, like on the fence with him, and how this scenario will work if they are patient with him. But I just seen this 9 years ago in Oklahoma City with a bunch of youth, and they moved these guys, and they didn't know what they had, but they had 3 MVPs one way or another down the road. You know what I'm saying? Like, will Atlanta be willing to wait while there's a bunch of youth throughout the Eastern Conference that are just as hungry, or if not hungrier? Because there was a discussion that took place earlier today. If the question was if the Hawks could ever make it out of the first round. And that was the question. And I'm like, that's a difficult question to try to throw out there. So that's why I brought it here to see how everybody felt. So, Naj, I mean, I'll bring it right back to you and then go to Eric. Your thoughts on the Hawks, how they are. Like, should it be a piece or two move? Should they stay in pat? I mean, what is it with the Hawks for them to at least be a second-round contender, if I'm being fair?
Yeah. Well, let's take contender out of there and just say playoff team, because that's the goal and that's what they're built to do. Them advancing is going to be based on who they get matched up with. So, I mean, that's all that comes down to. But Royce laid it out, man. The roster is there. You got veterans and young players to make this run. And this is a huge leap because they started this rebuild a couple of years ago, and I want to say 29 wins. Like, it was really bad. They were bottom of the barrel. So they did what they were supposed to do. They made trades, and they signed free agents, and now you got a young roster with veteran pieces on it to guide you where you need to go. So John Collins was supposed to get his extension before the season started. The rumor is they offered him $90 million, I think it was, last year. He turned that down. He's looking for max money. So he probably won't be a part of what they're building for. So when you see an indicator like that, that means this team understands they have young pieces, but they don't want to give up their versatility to be able to change course over the next few years, and they don't want to tie up that money into John Collins. So will we see a trade with him, or will we see somebody else give him the max? You know, I don't know. We'll have to see. But Cam Reddish can't buy a drink yet. This dude is young. Let that dude develop and see what you have. DeAndre Hunter, young. Let that dude develop and see what you have. So right now it's all about trade, making another step as far as being a fringe all-star type guy to an all-NBA guy. That's what you're waiting on. But everything else is in place, man. I think Clint Capella has been a great surprise for them as well. I think they expected him to come in and be a solid starting five. I don't think they expected fringe all-star because there's been some dominant games from Capella this season. As they get more healthy, man, we're going to see. And remember, Chris Dunn hasn't even played this year. He's the other veteran guy that they brought in, work-type guy to teach guys, what to do and how to act as a pro. And he's going to be a real asset for them as well when he finally gets healthy and comes back. So, yeah, I like where the Hawks are going, man. This is good space. Hopefully we can get up to maybe a 6. I don't know if that's stretching it, but 6 seed, that sounds realistic to me.
And that's what I'm worried about, because how long of a turnaround do we wait for them to get their comfort zone, if you will, in the Eastern Conference to be around with the – just look at Philly. Philly's young. And then look at the situation with not just Philly, but Boston. Boston is young too, and this is something that we've been talking about for quite some time with Tatum and Brown being there, and these guys are starved, you know what I'm saying, to try and get there and try and get over the hump so they can get to a finals, not just get to an Eastern Conference final. So there's going to be some thoroughbreds that they have to wait on, and I get it. This is something that we talked about previously with, teams like Brooklyn already being older. Like, these guys are going to be leaving soon, and we had this discussion before. So it's like somebody has to be to pick up the pieces, if you will, in the Eastern Conference, and I get it. They are young. I feel like they have to make that turnover, but we'll see. Eric, your thoughts on what's been discussed thus far with the Atlanta Hawks? Do you agree that they should stand pat and wait for these guys to go 3 to 5 years down the road, or do you think they start to, try to, bring somebody else in the building? Whether they have Rondo and Danilo Gallinari there being the older guys that had their playoff runs, and Rondo's been on championship teams as well. Your thoughts on the Atlanta Hawks?
Absolutely, you keep them intact. There's no rush here. They have a roster that potential has 5 All-Stars, young players. You keep this group of guys together, and if you can keep them together for the long term, like we just touched on Collins turning down a max deal, so he may not be able to stick around. But you got Cam Reddish, and Clint Capella is a great surprise. He's emerging as a star. So I think you let these guys play. This roster in 2 or 3 years, gentlemen, this team could be a star-studded team. The Atlanta Hawks can be atop of the East if they develop correctly. I mean, it's a scary team right here. And Trae Young, of course, leading the helms. This team could be dominant for years to come if they leave these pieces in play. You don't want to start getting trigger-happy in trade because they got a great young nucleus. Like I said, these guys can all be superstars in this league. So I say you let these guys develop and see where it takes you. And then if, in 3 years you're not at the top of the league, then you can, start trading away players. And you're going to see in the next 2 to 3 years these guys actually develop, and you'll be able to weed out the ones that aren't developing. So the Atlanta Hawks need to stay put, and they have a scary team for years to come.
Hey, Tymeless.
Yes.
Really quick, I want to say this, and I want to ask you guys what your thoughts are, and especially you, Naj. If I were management, president of basketball operations, general manager, coaching staff, I'm having multiple sit-downs with Rajon Rondo all season long, and I'm trying to convince Rajon Rondo to become a part of the coaching staff, to be a part of the brain trust over the next few seasons. Like, continue to play this season, but next season I'm asking Rondo, look, retire early. We'll pay you the remainder of your contract as a player, and then we're going to start you on a new deal as an assistant coach. I think Rondo is brilliant. I think Rondo is a guy who should make that transition like some of the previous point guards who after playing and winning championships, became head coaches in the league. And if I'm Atlanta, I want to snatch up Rajon Rondo because of the reputation he has around the league And I want him to be a part of our young organization because the Atlanta Hawks are trying to do something they have never done before, and that's getting to an NBA Finals. And you need this guy, in my opinion, in your organization. I think he can be a difference maker, Tymeless.
No, that's a good point because he lends a certain amount of credibility as far as the organization. Like after next year, that would be a good thing. And then the other part is, like, Rondo is a hard truth teller. Like, Rondo doesn't really mince words, and that's probably what Trey needs. Like, you can't get to where you want to get if Trey is the worst starting point guard defender in the league. And last year he was. This year he's a couple slots ahead of that, but he's still really bad defensively. And there's a certain amount of – I understand he's carrying a heavy workload on the offensive end, but there's a certain amount of I don't want to say accountability that he kind of shirks from on defense that he's going to have to step up. So Rondo would probably be a good person to be there to kind of hold that to him because Rondo is not going to lie to you. Like he don't care about your feelings. So I think that will work out.
I agree. Once you were saying it, I was like, yeah, without a doubt. And it depends on how long like he's in the tooth to play because I still feel like he has the ability to go out there and make a difference. I think that it's more or less he's playing that role of a backup point guard right now while he was able to contribute with the Lakers and come and do his thing. But, yeah, without a doubt, if you were able to get him to either settle down on not playing or playing less minutes more, but I definitely think he has coaching abilities to him, especially the guys that he's been around from, Vogel, being around Tyrone Lue, being around Doc Rivers. I mean, he's been around a great wealth of knowledge. And also, I really don't like giving this coach some credit, but also being around Coach Cal, too, down in college. So he has a great deal of knowledge at the basketball and being a quarterback himself at the point guard position. So I definitely would invite him if I were Atlanta to try and see what he can, help, mold these guys into being ready or being the next guy up, even though he came into the league and had to be that guy fresh out of Kentucky. So definitely, I think he'd be a huge inspiration to that Hawks organization. Eric, your thoughts before we get away from it?
Oh, no, I agree with your panel. So I look for the Atlanta Hawks to be a serious contender in the next 2 to 3 years, especially with these players developing. So I'm excited to see. And if, they can get Rondo, yeah, he may be a pretty good coach. He's a good a mentor. But I just think leaving this team be and letting them progress and grow together, they're going to have that chemistry, and they're going to have a great team. The Atlanta Hawks are going to be a top contender in the Eastern Conference for years to come if they allow these guys to grow together.
Okay. Just a quick update in the league. We get back to whatever we need to. Finals. San Antonio beats Golden State 105-100. Impressed. I'm impressed. Dallas, they were beating the crap out of Minnesota. They won 127-122. Minnesota fought all the way back. And they were getting blown out all game long. I didn't think Minnesota had what it takes to get back into the game. They did, unless it was garbage time, and they fought their way back into that game. Toronto wins on the road up against Memphis 128-113. And Kyle Lowry actually went out of the game with back spasms, so they did this without their leader. Washington ended up pulling this game out. Like I said, it was a close one-point game. They ended up winning 105-101. And Charlotte blows out Houston in North Carolina 119-94, in which at one point in time there was 1 point scored by Houston in the top of the third quarter. Like Charlotte was going off on them, and Houston couldn't buy a bucket, even a free throw. So that was impressive. The games that are still in play right now, Cleveland's up 2 on Phoenix, which is a topic that I do want to get to, and Milwaukee is in that dogfight with Denver. They're up 3 in Colorado up against the Nuggets. Speaking of which, this Cleveland game is an interesting one. Okay, and Phoenix just hit a 3 to go up by 1. Phoenix is playing some impressive under the radar ball. Like they've been up and down, but they're cruising right now, sitting at fourth place in the West. And I want to say about like 3 years ago, I was picking on Chris Paul and saying that he was done. But he came to OKC, opened my mind up, and it was like, okay, he still got something in the tank. And it's not like you're seeing a lot of his scoring prowess with this Phoenix Suns team, but you got this team to believe with a young group that are getting it done right now, for them to be in the West and sitting pretty with 9 losses. It's not that bad with a Phoenix team that was a usual seller team that we've seen year in and year out. I want to hear how you guys feel about the Phoenix Suns out West. Eric, I'll come to you first. Your thoughts on Chris Paul and the Suns?
Yeah, they've definitely been a surprise this year. You know, I think adding veteran Chris Paul has been really good for this team because they've had good young pieces in DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, of course, and Etuan Moore. But tonight, they're playing without Jaw Crowder and Chris Paul and still beating a pretty decent Cleveland Cavs team. So that speaks volumes for the rest of the team. Jaw Crowder's been a really good asset to them, too, as well this year. So Phoenix has been a good surprise, and I think they're going to be right in the thick of things, you know, come playoff time. I think they're definitely going to be a top 5 team in the West, so a sleeper team. And, you know, you get into the playoffs and you have a team like that, and Chris Paul leading the helms. Look at OKC last year. They were a Cinderella story, if you will, you know, went pretty far in the playoffs and lost a heartbreaking series to the Houston Rockets. So, you know, the Suns can do the same thing. So look for them to continue and, you know, end up in a top 5 spot in the Western Conference.
Okay, Naj, your thoughts on this Phoenix Suns team, the way that they are playing, and actually to actually make it this is even spicier. They're playing without Chris Paul, but this is an interesting game up against a hungry Cleveland Cavaliers team this year. And by the way, Devin Booker has a 36-point night. He's 14 for 26 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3, so he's on fire. Your thoughts on this Suns team with some youth and some veterans as well?
Yeah. I guess the thing to point out there is, yeah, Devin has 30-something points, but the thing to look at is I think he has over, he has 8 assists tonight. So without Chris Paul, he's taking over playmaking duties like he did last year where he had so much crazy usage. But he's learning to play without the ball even more. And he's not taking on that crazy workload, so he's going to be even fresher by the playoffs. And, yeah, Phoenix is going to be a tough out, man. Chris Paul is a cultural changer on a roster. I thought he was in decline 3 years ago. That dude got his body together, and once that happened, he still got that brain. So he's one of the best to ever do it, and the pride of being one of those type of guys, he wasn't going to let himself go out like an average point guard. So he's doing what he's doing. You see his imprint on that team. Ayton is only going to get better along with Booker. So they got 2 bookends to build around, and we just got to see the development of Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges and those guys. And that's what's, going to determine if they're able to advance in the playoffs. But, yeah, this is a solid playoff team, and Chris Paul, health depending, will determine if they can go. Because I think he's out with a hamstring right now. But, yeah, that will determine how far they can go. But this might be a good win tonight against – because remember, Cleveland's not your typical bad team that's in rebuild mode because they got so many extra assets that they're just kind of loaded. Like, nobody has a front court of Drummond and Jared Allen. But they got that right now because, they're kind of loaded. And Sexton's playing well tonight. So, they're giving Phoenix a fight. But, yeah, Devin Booker's special, man. So, good to see him balling.
Keezy, your thoughts on what's going on in Phoenix? I know me and you've had this discussion plenty of times right now. This game is coming down to the wire in which Colin Sexton just missed a shot, and it was a take foul. So they're up 2. Your thoughts on the Suns and where they're where they're sitting right now, this current state, and them being in the Western Conference and actually kind of cruising under the radar, if you will.
Well, Thomas, I love the direction this Phoenix Suns team is going in under the GM leadership of James Jones, and then the head coach, Monty Williams, and then you bring in a veteran point guard like Chris Paul. what you have are three, well, not necessarily three mild-mannered guys, because we know Chris Paul can be a little fiery, but talking about three gentlemen in their respective positions who have the respect around the league, and they have experience. They know how to compete. They understand patience. They understand what it is to build in the NBA from the floor up to the ceiling. And look, Chris Paul brings in so much experience and advantage. What we've seen the last couple of seasons, once he got his body right, he got his mind right, and he continued to flex his basketball IQ and acumen against a league that just continues to get younger and younger by the seasons. It's not hard to stick around and outsmart someone who has no clue what he is doing on a particular, from possession to possession. You know, when guys are coming in at 19 years old or 20 years old, they're 1 year removed from high school. And then you're competing against Chris Paul, who's seen pretty much everything that there is to see in an NBA contest without winning a championship. See what I'm saying? So it makes it easy for him to continue to shine, and it makes it also easier for him to pass on the knowledge. There's not a lot of resistance night in and night out, if you will, for a player with the skill set of Devin Booker to begin to take in what he's being given from Chris Paul and then apply it, not necessarily just in practice alone, but he gets to actually, you know, translate that into the game play. So Phoenix Suns, I don't know where they'll finish. I know you're not asking that. Are they going to be a playoff team? Well, they're looking like it, but as Naj pointed it out, it's going to come down to health. And then tonight's contest, with them going against a front court, this is the first time Cleveland started Drummond and Allen together. So this is a good test, if you will. This was a good test for the Phoenix Suns roster because they're not very big. Yes, they have DeAndre Ayton, but then after that, you have a veteran player in Frank Kaminsky. There's no upside there. And then I think they're missing Dario Saric, who's been in and out with injury. Yes, you know, Crowder has been added from Miami. Miami's absolutely missing Crowder, but he's starting to make a difference there in Phoenix. But we don't know if Crowder's found a home because he's a player who seems to be in demand. I mean, he's been on the move multiple seasons, and he's helped everywhere he's been. So he's a player who's in demand to help teams get over or get to the playoffs. So maybe that's how they're viewing him right now in Phoenix. He might be a good luck charm to get Phoenix into this season's playoff picture, Thomas. So I like Phoenix. I just don't expect a lot of them right now because I understand they're still under construction.
Right, no, definitely, and that's what I'm saying. While they're in the middle of the pack in the Western Conference, it speaks a lot on what was able to happen at this point right now in the season. I mean, it's still early, but it's surprising to see where they're sitting at fourth in the Western Conference. Speaking of which, they had just closed out the game. They won this game 119-113 up against Cleveland, hitting 2 free throws to close this thing out. I must say, with them sitting at 14-9, I wouldn't have expected the Suns to be in this point in time, sitting where they are at this point in time in the season. There is another team. I don't really want to blow this thing up because they have a wealth of talent on this team, but I know I've been picking on this guy. He's one of the 3 guys that I've been talking about the most around the league, and that's in Stan Van Gundy, being the coach of this Pelicans team. And it's like, I want to be fair. I think Van Gundy had a good solid 4 years, different locations that he played. I mean, he coached well. But this is a team where he has pieces all over the board, and they're trying to get rid of the likes of Lonzo Ball, who's a good defender, but I think his confidence is rattled. You got a shooter in J.J. Redick, who, you know, you want to keep a ready shooter, but I think he's at the tail end of his career the way that he's hoisting up shots, so it's interesting with him. But they have games that they'll win within their respective schedule, and they're sitting in the pack of trying to make a run at this season. I want to see how you guys feel about this Pelicans team. Do you think Van Gundy can get this turnaround out of this team before they start to look at him? Because I don't want to look at all of the youth that they have, similar to the way we just were talking about with Atlanta, with the differences that we had here, speaking on the youth there. Royce, I'll come to you first. Your thoughts on this Pelican team. Where does it lie? Does it lie on the bench with the coach in the front office, or is it some pieces that need to be moved within the roster?
The issue is the coach. You go from Alvin Gentry to Stan Van Gundy. It's not the right move, right, to go from that one to the other or vice versa. I wouldn't want to put those guys with this young, talented team that's trying to figure out how to win. Think about the vital core pieces. Zion Williamson, year one under Gentry as a rookie. In year two, he's got Van Gundy. Talking Brandon Ingram, who had his Los Angeles Lakers experiences, and then he comes to Gentry, gets the opportunity to develop and flow because they're holding back Zion, the NBA's most improved player, and then you get Van Gundy, and you're trying to figure out how to go from having the ball pretty much any time you wanted it or needed it, so you could do your thing, to now you got to figure out how to share. Drew Holiday's not there, provide the veteran leadership. J.J. Redick is just a role player for the most part. And then you got Lonzo, to me, is still playing without confidence. And so how do you get him the confidence that he needs to step up and lead a team from that point guard position? And then because of the trading, you bring in another veteran experienced point guard who at this point, he still needs to get his numbers so that he can maintain value, because he sees that there are guards coming behind him for his job, talking about Eric Bledsoe. So this young Pelican team can be entertaining from night to night, but they're going to struggle because I think they've lost some sense of direction, and they've got to find it quickly before it all falls apart before their own eyes.
They are on a 3-game winning streak, so they are trying to find that chemistry while it was a slow start out of the blocks. So I do want to be fair to them there. The last 10 games that they played, they're 500, they're 5-5. But I feel like this is the team that people have to be concerned with. They have bigs with Steven Adams, a house in his own right, and you got a young bull, and I call him Shaquille Jordan, being Zion Williamson, once he starts to, figure out what defenses can't deal with him, and then he's going to, just keep turning over to that left side of the floor and getting off the floor quicker than a lot of people his size. So that's interesting in itself. But, I wanted to see how everybody felt about it, but now I'm hearing Royce. I think it is more of the coaching situation, but like I said, there are two people that they have been talking about they are trying to move, and JJ and Lonzo. So, Eric, your thoughts on the Pelicans in the Western Conference. How do you feel? Do you agree with what's been said thus far, or do you think it's a potential piece that they have on the floor that just isn't fitting, like Redick or Lonzo Ball?
Yeah, I agree with the panel here. It's been nice to see Brandon Ingram develop into the star that he was projected to be coming out of Duke. So, that was, as a Laker fan, I was happy with the package, but I hated to see him go because I knew the caliber of player he was going to be. So, and Lonzo Ball has not lived up to expectations. Granted, the last 3 games he has stepped up his game in this winning streak. But if I'm the Pelicans, moving Lonzo Ball or J.J. Redick is a good move because you can get some pieces back. I think they've got a good young team. We can't really judge them right now. This is Van Gundy's first year with the team, so, we can't really be throwing him to the fire just yet, So we got to give him a chance, and we got to give this team a chance to gel. Just like you mentioned, Ty, they are a dangerous team. On any given night, they can beat you. But they're just a few pieces away. So I think moving Lonzo Ball and J.J. Redick, depending on what they can get back from him, would be a good idea because Lonzo Ball has not performed and lived up to his expectations. So I really like watching this team. They're fun to watch, and I just see you let them develop a little more because they are developing this chemistry. So we'll see how it pans out. But I do think moving Lonzo Ball and J.J. Redick could be a good thing depending on what they get back for him.
And they could bully teams out of the gym if they really wanted to, if they did this right. But I'm more or less looking at the likes of how long of a leash do they give Stan, and he just got there. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like they're going to be fair to him. And him being there for, what do I say, like 3 to 5 years. You know, like I want to see some type of turnaround. I don't think they'll pull the trigger on him after this first season, but it's like you have to be able to X and O this out with everybody ready to go. Like, this team is a ready-to-go team. I don't really think, like, they need much. I mean, you went and got a power forward in Zion out of the draft to kind of – I can't really say he's replacing Davis, but he's a good fill, you know what I'm saying? And then you got Steven Adams, who's a quality big. Me personally, I have my issues with him, but now he's changed his aura down there in New Orleans because it's not like it's his team anymore, so he has to kind of fill his role. Then you have guys like, you know, Hard. You got Bledsoe actually trying to turn over. Like you have your questions here or there, but it's been interesting to say the least. Naj, your thoughts on New Orleans? Do you agree with what's been said thus far with the potentially being Van Gundy's question mark, or do you think it's the pieces that he has to work with or the hand that he's been dealt?
Yeah, I'm all over Van Gundy's head on this, man. I don't think they should have fired Alvin Gentry to begin with. I think that was a huge mistake. And I think Van Gundy is making the mistake of him putting his personality on the roster as opposed to looking at the roster and saying, this is what we have, this is how we should play. They're like in the middle of the pack as far as pace for the NBA, as far as how fast they play. And to me, when you got Zion and you got Lonzo, you should be playing at a fast pace. Like, you should be pushing the ball up the court, trying to get opportunities for Zion, you know, in fast break situations, 2-on-1 situations. And to me, Lonzo is at his best on the run, making those passes, finding people. The issue with J.J. Redick, to me, is Van Gundy's never liked him. He didn't like him in Orlando as a rookie, and I don't think he likes him to this day. So I don't think he's getting a fair shake down there in New Orleans, and that's why his minutes are so low. I think he loves Josh Hart a lot more, so he kind of forces Josh to get more minutes than him. And also the boy Alexander Walker, he should get more time than me because I think he's instant offense, and I think you kind of have to put him in that Lou Williams six-man role to where you're not pulling him when he makes a mistake. You're just putting him in there and letting him create havoc. But I think Stan is such a control freak that he's coaching too much with this team. I think he needs to let back the reins a little bit, let Brandon Ingram be the decision maker most of the time as far as in the half court, but other times let Lonzo run with it and find people and kind of, just keep the pace up because their talent does not equate what their record is. And it stands on a 4-year deal, so I'm sure they're going to give him time to figure things out. But I just don't like the direction. With the pieces they have, I don't like how they play. I think if they played similar to what they played last year with Alvin, high pace, high offense stuff, I think it would be a lot better and a lot more dangerous. But, I mean, we're going to see. Like you guys said, Eric Bledsoe's trying to revive his career, trying to show that, he's much better than what people think after watching him in Milwaukee. So they got a lot going on. Zion wants to prove that he's worth all of the publicity that he gets. So it's a lot, man, but I think a lot of their problems, that's in Stan's lap.
Hey, Nas, I don't think you can let Van Gundy get through the life of that deal in those 4 years. I mean, we saw what he did in Detroit. Yeah. I mean, Detroit was bad, but now Detroit is god-awful. Like, he left nothing. He ruined Reggie Jackson. He pretty much started the decline of what is Blake Griffin. He has no idea who he is. I mean, I know he's not bouncy anymore, but he really thinks he's like Karl Malone with a three-point shot, and he's not running pick and roll like Karl Malone was with Stockton. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
No, you cannot let Van Gundy hang around. Like, I would reassess and I would come to my senses. Who's the GM? The guy that was he was
Griffin.
actually hanging with Van Gundy.
Yep.
What's his name? Nas?
Griffin from remember in
Griffin,
Cleveland?
right? So you got to remember. Yeah. So Griffin and Van Gundy were hanging out on ESPN, chopping it up. Now they take that relationship to New Orleans. Cut it out. Stop it. No, all Van Gundy should be sitting somewhere holding a microphone, contributing, their knowledge to the game that way. Their sideline days are over, in my opinion, if you are Stan and Jeff Van Gundy. Jeff, don't interview for a new job. Stay where you are. That's where you belong, because their style of coaching is just, it's not this league. It doesn't fit. And that's what Stan is not accepting. He is no longer a part of the wave and the movement that is how you coach basketball in this version of the NBA. So, yeah, you got to get him out of there. And, again, I'm not calling for him to be fired. I'm calling for ownership, basketball operations, the president to reassess his decision and say, you know what, I thought this is the way we needed to go. I made a mistake. So, obviously, your contract is guaranteed. You're going to be paid, but we're going to relieve you of duties. Thank you so much for what you've done thus far. We know that you had a game plan and a sense of direction, and we have not, and we're not planning to give you the time to execute said direction because we've seen enough. I'm sorry, my friend. You got to go.
It would
Nobody
be
would be happier than JJ.
Right, and that's interesting because I wasn't even thinking about that, Nas, that they were together in Orlando. I was not thinking about that, and it's interesting that he's trying to ship him out now. And it's funny watching JJ get some of those shots off, like because he's not balanced. But like last night, he was taking some of them shots that he was off balance and he was hitting them. So it's like, is he back or is he just taking favorable shots that they were? But the consistency has to lie there for JJ because some of those shots it's so erratic. Like if I was a coach, it would bother me too. Like I can't be mad. Like I'm at Van Gundy on that. It's like I wouldn't want somebody just raining the shot and we're not down there. Like it'll be a 3-on-3 and people still trying to line up and JJ will just get his screen and just pull that shot or just to pull it. And it's like I get it. That's his. I guess his style of play as it is as of now, but it's like no, if it's not fitting us,
right. But if a guy has been successful with everybody except you, it comes a point where it's like, okay, maybe you just don't like this guy. Remember in Orlando where they were playing, 1 in, 4 out, spreading the court with Dwight with shooters everywhere, and JJ couldn't get a minute because he just didn't think that JJ was a really good player, and he never played him. And now we get to here where he should be the veteran stabilizer there as a shooter. I'm not saying he should play 30 minutes a game or anything like that, but he could really help out Zion and Brandon as far as with spacing. And, Van Gundy just doesn't see it that way.
I like the idea of trading J.J. Redick for J.J. Redick's career. Reunite J.J. Redick with Dwight Howard. Send J.J. back to Philadelphia. And let's kind of run it back, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And I'll take Lonzo Ball in Philadelphia as well, because I know Doc Rivers is gonna figure out how to, like you said, Nas, have this guy running. So could you imagine Philadelphia running the floor, Lonzo pushing, Ben Simmons filling the wing, and Tobias Harris on the wing? And I'm not saying Tobias is electric like that in terms of like he's going to make some highlight play, but he is a bucket. He's going to finish at the basket or get fouled. Like that's what Tobias is going to do. He's going to help you run a successful fast break. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Come on, Philadelphia. Elton Brand, make that phone call. They're giving stuff away down there in New Orleans. We want it. We need it.
Sports City, I apologize. I apologize. Happening. I apologize. This is happening, Sports City. I apologize. I didn't even give him the Philly flavor, but he got it. Okay, now here goes an interesting situation, Sports City, because this game is taking place right now, and I guess they must be hearing what we do frequently together. The Bucks are up by 10 up against the Denver Nuggets, but I don't even want to talk about either of these teams, even though respectively both of these teams are doing what they're supposed to do within this respective season. Today they actually started Royce's guy, and I've been watching him closely, and Michael Porter Jr. He wasn't that successful today, but I don't want to hold one game over his head like this guy is a great athlete. But the guy that I want to talk about is probably the face of the organization, and Nikola Jokic. This guy has been going off for the past couple of games. He had a game of 47. He had a game of 50. Right now, with a minute left, he has 33, 12, and 6. He's 4 away from a triple-double, but I don't think he'll end up with it. But he is not around in a marquee matchup, mind you. The last one he had was up against Utah, up against Gobert, putting up a big night, even though he lost in a 50-point effort up against Sacramento. But this one is a game where they needed to win it. They're at home, down 10. They will end up losing this game unless somebody just starts burying threes out of somewhere. And Murray's having an off night. He's 4 of 15 from the floor, 1-5 from 3. Everybody else is having a decent day from 3, but they need at least a 3 to hit now to actually feel like they're confident in making this happen. But Jokic and the tear that he's on is unbelievable right now. When does it slow down for him? Like year after year, he's done something more impressive, year by year. Eric, I'll come to you first. You are at home in Colorado. Your thoughts on the Joker and what he's been able to do with this Nuggets team?
Yeah, just like you said, Ty, the Joker gets better and better each year. He's emerging to one of the best centers in the NBA right now. This guy can pass the ball. He can hurt you in the paint and beyond the arc. He's got a very great basketball IQ. He gets down there and gets rebounds. He plays defense. So I just think it's great, man. The Joker is turning into a superstar in this league. And the Denver Nuggets need to do everything in their power to keep him on the roster for a long time, because this guy is definitely, like you just touched on, the face of the Denver Nuggets. So, and he's exciting to watch. I get to see all their games out here being in Colorado, and it's amazing watching this guy play. So he's got a great basketball IQ out there.
This dude is like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with a jump shot. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yep.
I'm bugging out. I'm not calling him Kareem. I'm playing around. I'm playing. I wanted them to jump because I know Royce and them probably making faces. I just wanted to say that just to be funny. I know they're getting at me right now. Naj, your thoughts on Jokic, the tear that he's on, especially for this Nuggets team. And I know that we all 4 of us have spoken in depth on how we feel how MPJ should be out there on the floor more and, getting contributions from Murray. But your thoughts on the tear that Jokic has been on, just himself alone. I really don't want to – we can dive into what the Nuggets are doing right now, but your thoughts on Jokic's tear lately.
Okay, well, if you let me dive into what the Nuggets are doing, let me just say this real quick. Yeah, MPJ is not playing well tonight, but that's partly because Willie Barton is shooting the lights out. Like, Willie Barton has played so well, it's kind of affected MPJ tonight. He'll be back tomorrow or the next day, and he'll be fine. The one issue I do have with Joker is he has the ball too much, and it's kind of affecting Jamal Murray. It's kind of limiting how much Jamal Murray can go as far as ceiling. So that would be my one issue with the Nuggets. I think Mike Malone has done a much better job of distributing the minutes. He's actually using JaMychal Green and Millsap as the power forward and not giving either one, more favor than the other, and it's been effective. Now, when it comes to Joker, if the MVP vote was today, Joker would win. Like, he's averaging a triple-double. He's been dominant, and this offseason he decided he was going to take his conditioning and his body serious, and he's come in the best shape of his life. Now, it's not it ain't prototypical star athlete shape, but for Joker, like, this is amazing shape, and because of that conditioning, he's playing 34 minutes a game. And, he's just giving people work. He's so good at anticipation as far as if you make a mistake, he's going to find the pass that leads to the assist or make the assist. And then, he's still just as good as he was with all of that footwork and that shot, right over his head with you still in his face and he's just shooting it like you're not there. Like, he's still that dude. So Joker is going to be one of them amazing athletes that we talk about after his career is over, because there's no reason for him to be able to do this. He can't jump. He's not fast. He's just extremely skilled, and his mentality to where you just can't bother him. Like, he is not impressed. He is not, like, he doesn't get up or down. It's that even keel approach. Like, Joker is an amazing dude, man. And we're going to talk about him when he's done, and it's going to be like Paul Bunyan's story, just because of how ridiculous it is that this guy who can't jump over a piece of paper is giving people work every night, and ain't a damn thing you can do about it.
At the end of the day, his career will be better than Dirk Nowitzki's. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, that's high praise, and it's possible. That's high praise, but that's possible.
On stat-wise, that's possible, and he continues what he's doing now with all the triple-doubles and stuff, then I could say that. But, it'd be nice to see him end up with hardware as well, but it's definitely possible, Ty.
No, I agree with the hardware part. I wanted to throw that against the wall, see what would happen. Everybody cricket soup that on me, really.
It's
big
statement. Dirk's an all-time great.
Everybody was getting theirs in, but absolutely. I mean, statistically, they said the same words that I would have said. That statistically, Joker absolutely has the chance to be better than Dirk, right? And he's going to go about it doing the work different from Dirk. But you've also heard me say that for the history of the Dallas Mavericks, by the time Luka's done, he's going to be the best Maverick to ever wear the uniform. So,
really?
Dirk is a benchmark. You know what I'm saying? Clearly. Really. Do you know how young Luka Doncic is? Do you realize he's only 21? He'll be 22 this month in February. He'll just turn 22. And he's already walking around the son of LeBron James statistically, 28 points, 8 rebounds, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, multiple threes a game, right? Like, come on. The game has changed. So guys are getting to career statistical numbers quicker than their predecessors. So then it's not outlandish for us to look at history, then look at the talent that is before our eyes, and then project out, because that's the responsibility of a scout, right? You look for talent, and then you need to project out where you see this talent going, what it's capable of with good habits, good coaching, taking care of the body, and the right mindset. You can, kind of like project the ballpark area where they'll probably be or what type of career they're going to have, if it's a skill set you have. I happen to think that some of us have that skill set in this room, on this call, and that's all we're doing. At least that's what I'm saying. So I don't have to be right.
Absolutely.
But what I see.
This is interesting. I threw that out there just to see what stuck. Well, Royce, elaborate more. Like your thoughts on Jokic's tear for the, what do I say? I start with it went 47-50. He's put up 30-some odd points right now. I want to see what he's finishing with. They lost 125-112 up against Milwaukee at home. He finishes this game with a total of 35, 12, and 6 assists. Your thoughts on Jokic's tear?
I mean, look, the clear front runner for MVP this season. Naj nailed it.
Right. Hold on. Hold on. I want to see something too. Naj said if it stopped right now, if the season stopped right now, that Jokic would get the MVP. Do you agree?
I don't disagree, because I have no idea how everyone would vote. But chances are, knowing that the NBA is good at liking to pass the award around, certainly Giannis wouldn't get it again. I don't think that there are enough supporters for Joel Embiid to get it right at the moment. But we're on a campaign to increase his presence and the fact that he is a legitimate candidate for the award. And then because LeBron James is LeBron James, He's LeBron, and that should be enough in some people's eyes. You're LeBron, so that's good enough. You don't need another MVP award at this point in some people's eyes. But the Joker has never won the award, right? And it's a great story for his career, for the league, for the Denver Nugget organization. But what I wanted to touch on, Naj laid out. His conditioning is the best it's ever been since he's come into the NBA. Did he shed some lbs? He absolutely did. You could see that in the bubble. But his conditioning at the start of this season, oh my goodness. I'm not going to repeat everything he said. I mean, he nailed it. This dude is just in the best condition. We call it shape. He's in the best shape of his young NBA career. I think he's still 25. I'm not quite sure if he turned 26 yet. But this guy is roughly 2-3 years from his actual old school NBA prime of 28 to 32. He's getting playoff experience the last couple of seasons, right? Here's the reality in Denver.
Watch this. He turns 26 the day after your birthday.
Right. So 219, right? Gotcha.
Yep.
So here's the deal. This guy is untouchable in Denver. You could literally trade every piece around him, and he's going to lead that team. He's going to carry, right? Now, the beauty of him being the franchise player, what he has to figure out is kind of what we said about Dame Lillard. Is he going to go into the front office and say, hey, I know we've been running this narrative of Joker and Murray, but this Michael Porter kid, he's really good. I like him. He's got size. He rebounds. He's not the best on-ball defender, but he can help with weak side shot blocking. I don't really block shots. Joker's having a career year in steals. Another reason why you might want to consider him for your MVP. And as Nas laid out also about Jamal Murray. Murray is, I don't care what he does in the playoffs, the dude just disappears way too many times for me to talk about him like NBA All-Star, and he's getting snubbed. He's not an All-Star. He's not getting snubbed. He's consistently inconsistent. He's not the number 2 guy in this system. I think what's causing some confusion is this roster was loaded for a number of years. They were just trying to, play everybody, be nice to the guys who were there first, waiting for guys to get healthy, trying to figure out who to trade, who to let go, who to keep. Should he start? Should he come off the bench? Oh, my goodness. Somebody step up and be a leader in the front office, on the coaching staff. Stop playing defense on one of your most lethal weapons in terms of Michael Porter Jr., and I'm speaking obviously of Mike Malone. Stop being this guy up. You know it's a log jam. If you have a healthy Will Barton is good. He is very good, and he's experienced in the league. He has more NBA experience than Michael Porter Jr., so he knows the nights and he knows the matchups that he is going to cook and feast on his opponent, which means it's probably going to be a slow night at the office for MPJ if he's not knocking down his first 3 shots 3 for 3, right, and getting the head coach's attention. But even on nights like that, we've seen Mike Malone say, all right, Mike, good job. Come sit down right over here next to me, bud. That's what we're going to do. Let Will do his thing tonight. We'll get you next time. So it's crazy. Can these guys coach? I think they can. Do I agree with all their decisions? Nah, Tymeless, I don't. So Joker is really good. He's the MVP candidate. He's probably going to win the MVP award unless something significantly changes with somebody else in terms of they rate their and elevate their play in Philadelphia, that being one Joel Embiid for MVP.
I'm going to let you guys set that off as we get ready to close out. Shout out to Power 103 Radio, joining in with Sports City Chefs and getting one of these cafes in the bank with the Power 103 Radio. So I'm going to do that. On everybody's closeout, Give me your thoughts on who you like for MVP out of the bigs in the league. Would it be Joker or would it be Embiid? Embiid needs a nickname. I got to come up with a nickname. I'm gonna think of something, man. Everybody already know I was calling Russ the Road Runner. I gotta give him Embiid something, man, because it's too easy to give him Embiid. It's his name. We got to do something. But I need you guys to give me a closeout as we shut the doors on the Master Chef edition of the Crossover Cafe. Excellent work and cruise through this show. I'll start with you first, Naj. You already know. I think you favor Jokic, or do you like Embiid? And give me a closeout as well.
Yeah, man. It's a really close race, but at this point, I say you give it to Joker just because of the moment. So I got Joker in the lead at 1. Of course, following right behind is Joel Embiid, who has been special this year. A lot of people in the offseason kept saying things like, well, Joel shoots too many threes, this, that, and third. It's like, no, that's a part of the new modern game for big men. You have to have the ability to stretch the floor and space for everybody else. Joel shooting 3 to 4 threes a game is actually a plus for Philly, and it actually opens up the floor for everybody. Like the talk of Joel, I don't understand it, man. I understand like people are usually root against the big guy, the giant or whatever. But yeah, Joel's been special this year as well. That's why Philly has the record that they do. Even with Ben in and out of the lineup and everything else they had to deal with Seth Curry dealing with COVID and everything else, like Joel has been a monster. So, yeah, Joel is right behind him, and those positions could shift within the next month because that's how the NBA goes, man. You could have a down week or two, and the other guy could be ascending. So I got Joker number 1. I got Joel number 2. And for number 3, I don't think like this is like off the board or anything like that, but this is an unpopular thing just because of this guy's reputation. But it's Paul George, man. Paul George has been excellent this year. He's leading the Clippers in a way that I don't think many people thought he could do as far as his play. He's showing up. He's consistent every night. Just been a phenomenal player this year, and I think he deserves all of the respect a player of his caliber should get. Now, after the last couple of years, his reputation is what he is. He earned that. Like, people didn't invent some of the stuff and flaws in Paul George's game and his lack of accountability and all the things that people said were correct about Paul George. But to have this redemption story where this dude is showing and proving that pride is a thing, man. I don't care who you are prideful about people laughing at you all summer. And that dude got in the lab and got his stuff together, and I think he should be in consideration, even though he's an unpopular guy right now. So those would be my 3. But, yeah, good show, man. Good talking with y'all. Master Chef's edition. No line cooks here. We got in the real NBA stuff, talked about this in a fashion that wasn't fan-centric, and we just talking about ball, man. So salute to Tymeless. Salute to Royce, and salute to my man out there in Colorado whose name Eric, I think is. I didn't want to call his name wrong, so I wanted to be careful. But I'm going to do the Stephen A. Smith. And those boys over there, you know what I'm saying? I want to say it's Eric, and Timeless ain't going to correct me or not.
You got it, bro.
Okay. There we go. No, I didn't know if I messed it up. That's why I was trying to stall. But yeah,
got
man,
it, brother.
shout out to the chefs, man. Good show, man. Appreciate it.
I'm trying, man. I don't want to mess up people close out that, even though y'all do it to me every time I get ready to close out, everybody got something to say. You know what I'm saying? That is different. Okay, so Big Easy Eric, I'm gritting my teeth at you because this game is coming to the damn wire with the Thunder and the Lakers. The Thunder are up 5. And I'm up here watching this thing so close. I'm hoping they can keep running so I can watch this game. This game is getting out of line. LeBron has a triple-double right now. He's trying to get my boy Dort into foul trouble. I'm actually happy that Dort could actually be LeBron James. I'm like, wow. Like, this dude is so impressive to me. Like, if he could just score, if Dort could give us, like, a consistent 14 a night, I'd be so happy. I would be so happy. But I'm dreaming. But you already know what to do. your thoughts on MVP between the two bigs? Is it at home with you, or is it in Philadelphia Joker at home with you, or is it with Joel Embiid in Philadelphia? And give me a closeout as well.
Exactly. It's going to come down to both of them, but the Joker definitely has the lead right now. He's averaging 36 minutes a game, 27 points per game, 56% from the field goal and 39 from three-point land, and 11.5 rebounds and 8.6 assists. So, that's huge, So I'm giving the nod to him so far. I did like what Naj threw in there. Definitely a comeback player of the year. Paul George, averaging almost 25 points a game, shooting 56% from the field. So he's definitely up his game. That's a good name to throw in there. But as always, it's been a pleasure working with all you, my brothers. So great show tonight, the Master Chefs edition, Power 103 Radio, SportsCityChefs.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a blessed night.
That is for sure. We will be back here with the roundtable tomorrow evening with the Super Bowl talk. If you guys want to get hot and heated in this building, you can come pick on Sirius, because Sirius still believes that Brady is not the GOAT, and I got all of the smoke. I am so ready for that. I'm like, what else could you say? Like, I don't know. Just save it. I need every last ounce of y'all energy for tomorrow, because it'll be on at the round table. All right, Keezy, give me your thoughts and the reason why Embiid should bring this back to Pennsylvania, and a closeout as well.
So I'm gonna start it like this. The Denver Nuggets are sitting number 6 in the Western Conference, barely over 500, 2 games over 500. If 12-10 is accurate, I don't know if this NBA.com has updated their recent loss. If it has, they're 12-10. If it hasn't, they're 12-11. But the Philadelphia 76ers sit atop the Eastern Conference at 17-7. Eric was running off Joker's stats. Well, let me run off Mr. Embiid's statistics this season. At 31.8 minutes per game, 29.3 points, 10.7 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.2 blocks. He is 9.3 field goals made out of 16.8 field goal attempts. That's 55% from the field. He is 38% from the three-point line. He gets to the free throw line 11 times a game. He knocks down 9.6 for 85% free throw shooter. Clearly, he may not be putting up, quote-unquote, historical triple-double type runs. In my opinion, Joker is just simply pulling off a big man version of Russell Westbrook when he got the MVP as a number 5, 6, 7, 8 seed, whatever Oklahoma City was. The team wasn't that good, but he was getting stats after stats upon stats, and that's great for fantasy and DFS. But when you're talking about impacting, winning, sitting atop the standings, normally your league MVP traditionally has the best record in the league, and he's the best player on the best team record-wise. Now, are there a couple of teams ahead of Philadelphia? Yeah, but they're in the Western Conference where Joker is, and Joker's team is nowhere near the top. So if you actually want to vote right now, I say do your homework before you just roll with the fanfare and the popular chit-chat about the one they call Joker. The MVP is in Philadelphia, and his name is Joel Embiid. That's my plug. That's my close. Joel Embiid for MVP. Thank you, Sports City Chef. Thank you, V103. Let's do what we do. Tymeless, thank you for having me. Can't wait to do it again, my brother. Shout out to you, Naj and Eric. Great show, guys. Love y'all. Peace.
Well, he just cooked up some brownies before he walked out this door. You hear me? Like you just don't leave my building like that, man. You sit down and eat an a la mode or something, man. You just don't leave, man. If y'all ever see, I was thinking of an old scene in a movie called Hoodlum. I don't know if y'all ever seen it, but it was a Lawrence Fishburne. He was walking down, you know what I'm saying? And his boy tried to poison him because he put he put almonds in his ice cream. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yo, you eat it. You eat it. His boy's shivering. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel like Royce trying to do me. You know what I'm saying? Trying to poison my ice cream.
Royce put Joker in the air fryer. He ain't even break out the deep fryer. He didn't break out the oven. He put that man in the air fryer real quick.
Yeah.
Efficient, quick, heat him up.
Right, quick. It did it quick. Like, it cadence all crazy. Like, he wrote it out. Like, he scripted this out. Like, hold on. And read that off. So I'm going to tell you what Joel joint looked like. Like, this is what he do. But guess what, Sports City? The Master Chef show is back. This is day one of the Master Chef's back, and everybody comfy, calm, and coolly. That's how it's supposed to be. So I guess I have to vote because I threw that out there. You know what? I ain't going to let Roy sit out there by himself. He actually inspired me to get the Master Chef back in order. So I roll with Joel Embiid. I'm from the East Coast, too. I love Philadelphia. I like cheesesteaks. I like your Joker. That's why I brought the topic up. I didn't know Royce was going to tweak it. So now he put me in a situation so I can't leave him. So I'm with you, Royce, but if you didn't say that, I probably would have said Joker. But I'm going to roll with you just because you're my big brother. It is February, so I'm feeling kind of birthday-ish. Sports City, I'm letting you in. 9 days is Roy's birthday, so just so you know, Roy's birthday popping off. SportsCityChefs.com. Check out the website, the interviews, the blogs, everything that we got going. Power 103 Radio. Shout out to y'all. There's another show in the books. I guess you'll see us tomorrow, roundtabling it up. We got another guest. But it's not even another guest. We have our old guest that wants more. He wants to get back in Sports City because he's going crazy on what's been going on in the kitchen. So shout out to everybody that's been here contributing, bringing the energy and talent to the kitchen. But you already know how this goes. On that note, tell a friend. It's the chefs again. And if they don't know, now they know.
Sports City, chefs. Sports City, chefs. Sports City, chefs. Sports City, kaboom. Sports City chefs is in the room, cooking up hot topics to put up on your spoon. They well in tune, bloom like a flower in June. Superman versus MF Doom, the clouds loom. So tell a friend it's the Sports City chefs again. Pay attention, tune in, we on the set again. Sports City, chefs. Sports City, chefs. Yeah. Woo! Connecticut.